Hello everyone, welcome back here to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. My name is Hunter, and on this Tuesday, August the 19th, 2025, this is your evening update. We're going to be looking at your temperature trends through the week as a powerful cold front will bring fall-like temperatures to the United States. And how cold will temperatures get? We'll answer that question later on. Also, we're going to be looking at your long range with your temperature and precipitation forecast through the rest of August into the first week of September, and we'll touch on the tropical weather update later on in the video. So if you are here, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new, like the video if you enjoy it, and give it a thumbs up, and share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. So let's start here with your alerts across the United States. In orange, those are your heat advisories, and those are mainly confined to the mid and lower Mississippi Valley. Also up there into Montana and western North Dakota, we have heat advisories. We also have some sprinkled in heat advisories out across the desert Southwest as well. Into the magenta colors, those are extreme heat warnings where the heat is really starting to get strong, and especially the urban heat island, Little Rock, Memphis, down there towards Shreveport and Monroe, Louisiana. And then, of course, over there in the desert Southwest where we expect some very high heat going forward over the next few days. So let's touch on that here first. Here are your high temperatures that we achieved this afternoon, and it was a hot one. No mistake about that here across portions of the South, and record-breaking heat at times across the mid and lower Mississippi Valley. That's right where the National Weather Service has that extreme heat warning. We also saw triple-digit heat up into Montana and Wyoming today, and again over here into the desert Southwest like you typically see in the desert. If you're looking for any cool areas, today was up into the upper Great Lakes region, into portions of the Northeast where we saw 60s and 70s, and here's where temperatures settle as we go into tonight or early Wednesday morning. Notice we're into the 50s where we saw cooler air from the upper Great Lakes into the Northeast, or the Pacific Northwest, where it was much warmer today. Temperatures will only settle into the middle and upper 70s across the south central U.S., or the 80s over here into the desert Southwest. And once more, as we go into tomorrow afternoon, it will be hot again. High heat from the western plains and Rockies all the way down into the south central U.S., just a touch cooler across the lower Mississippi Valley. Instead of the triple-digit heat, we'll still be seeing mid-90s, but a trend in the right direction. In fact, even portions of the Northeast tomorrow could be seeing record cool high temperatures in New York State into Massachusetts, with highs in the mid 60s as we go into your Wednesday afternoon. Now, as we go later through the week, but especially this weekend on Saturday, August 23rd into Sunday, August 24th, a powerful cold front will penetrate southward from Canada into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region, and this is the start of a pattern change as we get into the weekend itself. So here on Friday, we got an occluding low pressure system. We've seen a few of these up into southern Canada the past couple of weeks. It's going to drag a rather powerful cold front southward from Canada into the upper Midwest on Friday. That will penetrate further south toward the Ohio River Valley as we go into Saturday. And then into Sunday, that all goes all the way down perhaps almost to Jackson, Mississippi, Shreveport, and Dallas. And then by the time we get to early next week, a double-barreled area of Canadian high pressure. And Canadian high pressure is cooler air and drier air across much of the Mississippi River Valley on eastward. So this will be a cold front that a lot of folks are looking forward to if you're looking forward to cooler air. So here we go on Saturday, August 23rd, upper 60s for highs into the upper Midwest. Yes, it's still into the 90s across the deep south, but watch as we go into Sunday morning. We're seeing temperatures into the mid and upper 40s and low 50s. Nice to open up the windows out there full-fledged across the upper Midwest by Sunday morning. And if you don't like that, look at Monday morning by around almost just a week from today, upper 30s perhaps in some areas into the Arrowhead of Minnesota, up near Lake Superior there, northern Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan. And this is some real cool air as we go into late August. Now, we are going to be seeing the battle of the air masses over the next couple of days, and that will still result in the threat for severe weather, although a lower end threat for severe weather. In the dark green, we have from Ohio back here into Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and also into western portions of Montana. That's an isolated threat for severe weather with some storms that could bring some damaging wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, some quarter-size hail, and generally the tornado threat is low. Going into tomorrow on Wednesday, August 20th, that threat's small. It's up here in northeastern Montana and into North Dakota, where again, isolated strong storms will be possible. And then as we go into Thursday, August 21st, it's into the eastern Dakotas and parts of Minnesota there, especially northwestern and northern Minnesota, that could see some isolated severe weather there on the 21st of August. Let's look at the central U.S. view first. We'll look at the eastern U.S. second and then the western U.S. third. We do have some storms around across the southern plains over here into the Ohio River Valley. A few of these could be strong with some wind gusts that could be up to 60 miles per hour for the next few hours. Once the sun sets, especially after 9 o'clock this evening, I do feel that the coverage and intensity of these storms will be decreasing as we lose the daytime heating. And then as we start the day on Wednesday, most of us will start dry in the central U.S. outside of a couple of showers across portions of North Texas, central Arkansas, or western Tennessee. And then once again, as we go into tomorrow afternoon, a few storms will be possible, although a little bit further south this time across portions of Texas, Hill Country, into Louisiana, into Mississippi, and Alabama as we go into Wednesday afternoon. But again, we lose the daytime heating and we lose the coverage and intensity of those storms again. And then here we go on Thursday, some showers moving across North Dakota on Thursday morning. That could spell out the potential of some stronger storms in the eastern Dakotas and into Minnesota Thursday afternoon. We're watching out for that. Some of those storms will be even overnight. That could produce potentially some gusty winds, hail, and an isolated tornado threat in addition to more locally heavy rainfall. Now, looking at the rainfall prospects through 7 a.m. on Friday, August 22nd, there will be some pockets over a quarter, half an inch of rain, especially the eastern Dakotas into Minnesota with that front coming through. And that could bring some isolated flooding up there, and then some heavier rains down near the Gulf Coast, especially for southeast Texas, Louisiana, into Mississippi and Alabama going through 7 a.m. on Friday as well. Now into the eastern United States, we do have some storms scattered about from portions of Lake Erie southward there into Georgia and the Carolinas, much like we see here across the central United States. Once we lose the daytime heating, coverage, intensity of those storms will tend to decrease as well, although a disturbance will bring some steady rains across portions of western and upstate New York, over into Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine as we go into overnight tonight into your Wednesday. It will be a rather wet Wednesday across the Northeast, and that could spawn additional storms down along the Appalachians and into the Smoky Mountains, including the Cumberland Plateau, as we go here into eastern Tennessee Wednesday evening. We lose the daytime heating again, we lose those storms, and then Thursday looks like a drier day for the Northeast. So it'll be a wet Wednesday, it'll be a drier Thursday up there, that is for sure. When the rain does come through on Wednesday in the Northeast, we could be seeing potentially 1 to 2 inches worth of rain for New York State over into portions of Vermont, southern New Hampshire into Massachusetts. That could extend down here into Connecticut and Rhode Island, even Long Island there, seeing some of that as well going through 7 a.m. on Friday, August 22nd. More sporadic rainfall across the southeast, including Florida as well, as we go through the Friday morning time frame. Now, looking out west, things are pretty quiet here at 6 o'clock, and will remain quiet outside of a shower or storm advancing from Idaho into Montana overnight. Nothing too significant there. Going through the day on Wednesday, we are going to see some clockwise flow around our high pressure system, and that will bring some showers and storms to areas underneath of it here in Arizona and New Mexico, or over top of it there into Montana. Underneath of it, we're going to see a lot of sunshine, and that will prevail on Thursday, although there could be some storms into the Phoenix Metroplex, Flagstaff, Tucson, over there to Albuquerque, even Salt Lake City, Reno, into Nevada. Could be seeing some storms as we go into Thursday and Thursday evening. We'll keep a very close eye on that. A lot of us out west will remain dry through Friday at 7 a.m. on August 22nd, although some spots could see an inch of rain potentially if you get some heavy downpours from Arizona into New Mexico, up into Utah and Colorado as we go through 7 a.m. there on Friday. Now, like we mentioned, the cooler air will be progressing southward as we go into the weekend. Along the leading edge of that cool air, with the difference in heating from the warm air and unstable air to the cooler and more stable air, there's going to be a frontal boundary, and that's going to bring some chance for showers and storms this weekend. There's our low pressure system up in northern Ontario on Saturday morning, and that will be progressing over there into the southern parts of the Hudson Bay by Sunday, and it will be a rather potent front, so there could be enough for moisture out ahead of that for some showers and storms, although the severe weather threat, the further east it goes in toward the eastern seaboard this weekend, will tend to be lower here as we go through that time frame. But there could still be some heavier downpours with that from, again, New York State down into Pennsylvania, West Virginia, extending down into the Carolinas and Georgia, and then some rain picking up from the Four Corners region out into the plains of Kansas and Oklahoma as we go through the weekend. And of course, the main storm track in Ontario and Quebec, we could be seeing some heavier rainfall there with that this weekend. Now, going into next week, and Monday, August 25th through Friday, August 29th, big trough across southeastern Canada and around the eastern Great Lakes region, extending into the northeast, will promise an extension of the cooler air. So once the cooler air gets here, it has some staying power, and actually a lot of the United States in the central and eastern two-thirds next week between the 25th and 29th of August will trend cooler than normal, where a ridge will begin to develop over there toward Alaska and western Canada, and that could extend some warmer air not only into the Canadian prairies up there in British Columbia and Alberta, but also further south into the Pacific Northwest as well, and that will trend further south with our storm track. So areas that really need beneficial rain will get it once we get into late August from the Four Corners region and extending into the Red River Valley and much of the southern plains, whereas the upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Great Lakes will begin to dry out a little bit during late August. So we can see multiple storm systems and disturbances moving off the northwest flow here in late August from Colorado, right off the Front Range. You get a lot of lift from the Rocky Mountains, and then they move southeast toward Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas. And this could eventually bring a few inches of rainfall to our friends down there in the Sooner State of Oklahoma, into southern Kansas, into Texas, extending into the Razorback State of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. A lot of these states down here to the south will be getting some beneficial, much-needed rainfall as we go into late August, and some of this could be heavy at times, so we're going to be watching out for a flash flooding risk. Now, extending into the long range into the first full week of September, that trough will retrograde just a little bit further south and westward into the mid-Mississippi Valley, and that will be, again, another extension of some cooler air as we go into the first week of September, warming up over the top there across Ontario and Quebec. That could bleed into the Great Lakes at times, and then still some warmth down there in coastal Texas into Louisiana as well into the first week of September. Active weather kind of underneath of that trough, where we could see some cooler rains across the Mississippi Valley, some thunderstorms at times. Severe weather should still be limited in early September due to the cooler temperatures, but I wouldn't rule it out further to the south there toward Dixie Alley. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. And that goes right along with the Climate Prediction Center's forecast for late August into September. Below normal temperatures there, very highly favored across the Midwest and Ohio Valley into the Great Lakes region, extending into the Northeast, wetter across the West and into the desert Southwest, extending in toward the Southern Plains, Red River Valley, and then the Eastern Seaboard with any tropical threats we have, and then drying out there across the upper Midwest into the Ohio Valley, going into the last portion of August and probably even extending into early September as well. Now let's take a look here at Hurricane Erin that is forming here and is just continuing to spin, and it is a Category 2 just to the east of the Bahama Islands right now. And you can see this is the latest overview of the tropical weather outlook across the Atlantic Basin. Obviously, we got a Category 2 hurricane east of the Bahamas. We got another 60% chance of development in orange right behind Erin. That next name will be Fernand, and then another tropical wave behind that that has a 30% chance of development right off of the Cape Verde Islands of Africa. So very active over here into the Atlantic, and that is the expectation for the hurricane season. We are looking at Hurricane Erin now. This is the wind field, and as a system is weakening, the wind field, at least the tropical storm force winds, will begin to spread out in all directions. This could impact parts of Cape Hatteras there in the Outer Banks of North Carolina with those tropical storm force winds, but that hurricane force winds will remain well offshore as we go through the rest of the week, and we'll get close with those tropical storm force winds by the time we get to Friday to Cape Cod and also Nova Scotia to the south there. Be keeping an eye on that. Rainfall threats are going to be tied to near the eye wall, and a lot of the heaviest of rains will be well offshore of Cape Hatteras there in Norfolk, so we'll be seeing that mainly offshore. But this could bring some higher impact waves, which could result in some life-threatening rip currents along the East Coast, whether you're in Florida or Maine or even Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada. We have to watch this as we go through the rest of the week. Higher wave heights there for areas near Cape Hatteras and even Norfolk as we go into the end of the week on Thursday. Wave heights right along the shoreline could be pressing up near 20 feet in some areas. Right near the eye wall, could be seeing potentially 50 to 60 foot breakers out there along portions of the western Atlantic, and then some heavier waves up there into the weekend for Nova Scotia, Newfoundland in tropical Canada, tropical Atlantic Canada. So we are looking at our next system. Does have a 60% chance of development right behind Erin. The next name is Fernand. This system looks like on the ensembles, there is a tendency to move it further to the north and west, mainly again north of the Leeward Islands and north of the Greater Antilles on the European ensemble guidance, and the GFS ensemble guidance this afternoon is in very good agreement, even better agreement this afternoon than what we saw with our morning video, so that's some good news. Although we still have to watch it, the thermodynamic parameter space out here into the southwest Atlantic is favorable for another strong system. Not to say we're going to have another Category 4 hurricane at all, but it is something you still have to watch with such warm waters out here because those waters are well above the historical average. Again, in the southwest Atlantic, we still need to keep an eye on this. No need to panic, however. Still several days out, a 7-day time frame for this to watch in the western Maine development region, and that we will be doing here on this channel is watching it right here for you. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy this forecast, make sure to give it a like, a thumbs up, share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are new here and you're not subscribed. We do daily weather forecasts for southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics. My winter forecast will be posted on August 31st. So we have seasonal weather outlooks, monthly weather outlooks, and daily weather forecasts here on the channel. So subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for the support, and have a wonderful and safe rest of your Tuesday out there.